GG, Galero Gaming. Builds, guides, walkthroughs, and gameplay.
Hello gamers and welcome back to Galero Gaming. Today I'm going to go over CP with you. How to get it, where to get it, the many different sources that it comes from in Kritika. And I mean many. But one thing to remember right off the rip is that CP, although it is combat power, does not equate completely to clearing power. There are some stats that do not show up on CP at all that are some of the strongest stats in the game, such as boss hit rate, slash, smash, and pierce, and then your elemental buff. Those stats don't affect your CP at all, but they are the three biggest increases to damage that you can have in this game. Now, there are three places that are account-wide buffs. You've got your knights, which you gain from leveling up your characters to level 70. The more characters you have, the more bonus you'll get. This goes up to 1500. Pets have pet sets. So collecting a lot of different types of pets and locking them onto your character can unlock sets. Once you complete a set, you get a stat bonus from having that set done. And then there's cards. Going from low to myth, completing a card set gives you an account-wide bonus. Certain cards have stats on their own right. A lot of them fall into the rare, legend, or myth class cards. These cards can provide a decent bonus to your stats on their own. And so boosting all of your cards and getting all of those sets up can give you a lot of increase on your account-wide bonuses. These are a very strong area. Now there's a few different places you can get these card sets. The bundles themselves, you can buy some of them with the redstones from prior. You can buy them on the auction house. You can also get some of them from certain dungeon drops. You get some through your quests while you're leveling up. There's a lot of different ways to obtain them, and they can help you out a lot in evening out some stats. Next thing we're going to talk about is your gear. There is a lot of different things that go into your gear itself. Now, when you're enhancing your gear, they've got breakpoints. If you look under the enhancement tab, it'll tell you what those breakpoints are, where it will add your prime attribute. Every 20 prime or so is roughly a 3% increase off of your attack power in your stat window. So you can get a lot of bonus out of getting a high prime attribute that fits your class. Now there's some items that can give you effects. They're usable items like your boots, your ring, your dice, for example, when you're talking myth gear. These can all be slotted and used to give you bonuses depending on the piece of gear that you're using. Now all of your gear will have an identified stats window as well. These are the stats that when you identify the gear, it shows up randomly what you get. You can re-roll these using re-identify scrolls, and then you can re-roll the amount of that set stat that's there using recalculation scrolls to get a higher amount of whatever stat you have on the item already. Now when you're doing this, you can also use holder stones or prophecy scrolls to either hold a stat in or see what your next roll might be to decide if you actually want to go with that roll or keep the one you already have. And then we've also got the enchant orbs that you can put on your gear. These are also commonly referred to as charms. You can get these as drops from clearing some dungeon areas. Example being a lot of the evergreen ultimates will drop enchant orbs for you. You can also find them on the auction house if you want to just purchase them quickly. These come with varieties of different stats that they can add onto your gear, such as like your helmet gives you crit and crit damage, going up to 200 crit and 30% crit damage on one of the better helmet rolls for the orbs. These can be a very quick boost to your CP if you put them on gear that you like. Now you've also got soul gems. You can equip these onto all of your gear as well, or all of your main gear anyways, i.e. your armor, your weapon, your accessories. They all have soul gem slots. At the bottom of your inventory, there's a section that you can use for your soul gems. And here you can look and see what you already have equipped, see the bonuses that you're getting, equip and unlock soul gem slots, craft your soul gems based on the ones you already have, and then combine them to randomly or select using soul gem selectors to get different soul gems based on combining two of the same level. So if you have two soul gems like 2 level 4 darks but you're a fire roll, you can combine those 2 darks to make a whatever it shows up with randomly. This can be helpful in trying to get different soul gems to use to craft higher levels later. Now another thing in the same line as these is crystals. There's blue crystals and red crystals. Blue crystals drop from one of the dungeons that you can run twice a day every day, and it has a chance to drop red crystals. Now they're going to all drop pretty much at the blue stage, so they're not going to be very strong. But you can use your synthesizer at the bottom of your inventory to combine them to make a higher tiered one. So you can go from the high blue crystal up to the rare blue crystal up to the legendary blue crystal by combining them together to make a stronger one. Or once again, you can also just buy them off the auction house. Now these are also only equipable to your artifact, talisman, and catipulates down there at the bottom. Those three don't get soul gems. They do, however, get crystal slots. Now, big thing to remember is when you unequip one of those items, those crystals go right back into your inventory. So once you re-equip it, you'll have to go back in and re-equip the crystals as well. Now, your dice. The dice is a very unique thing. It functions off the RNG. You slot the item after you've equipped it, and when you go into a dungeon, you can press the dice and it rolls. You'll get a 1 through 6, and that'll give you whatever your bonus is. You can re-roll what the bonus is for each one. Each number has different options that you can choose from, and there's reroll items that you can get in game to change what that number bonus does. And this bonus isn't timed out on it, so if you get your best bonus on your first roll at the beginning of a dungeon, you can just run that bonus the whole dungeon, which makes it kind of nice because it's not something like your ring where you have to remember to constantly hit it every 2 minutes or less. Now the two newest items that they've introduced, the belt and the ornament, they're a pair. They work together. Your belt will give you stat bonuses based on every 100 points over 3,000 crit you hit. So for those people who stack up a lot of crit and hit that 3k and then their bonuses run them over 3k when in a dungeon, this can provide you extra stats such as your element type, hit type, attack power, things like that. And then your ornament has special functions to itself that will give you, such as all elements, the element, smash, and stuff like that, that provides bonuses to your character that can increase your damage that you have. And if you have the same stat bonuses, such as the element on both your belt and your ornament, they link together and provide you with a bonus stat based on what your ornament says it will give you when linked. Next up is your talisman. The talisman is something that you get through the quest line, and it's a unique item in the fact that you level it up from white to myth. You need to farm the upgrade materials for it and upgrade it, and the talisman itself will level up going all the way up to level 100. Now the upgrade materials to level it all the way up to myth increase every stage as you go along, and based on what stage you're on will determine how many levels you can gain on your talisman. And as you're leveling it up, you can use items that you either purchase with stones or get from Straggler's Camp to boost the stats on this. At level 100, you have the maximum allowed stats that you can put onto the item, such as 6,000 attack. Now, when you're going from legend to myth on this, you also gain attack on it, and you can select which attack type bonus you want, slash, pierce, or smash. And then once it's at myth, you can then enhance the item itself going all the way up in your plus status. So you can continuously increase it and get more stats out of it once you have it at myth. Then you've also got your catipulates, also called a power core. This is pretty much just free stats as long as you keep the item charged up. Using skills and activating it will use its charge status on it, so you're going to have to recharge it every now and then. You can enhance this item as well, and it has different bonuses that you can activate when you use it. So activating your EX mode, or for Archer shooting a charged shot, will activate this. You can gain things such as increased attack type, reduced damage, a burst heal, healing over time, things to that effect. But this item is really just a great flat stat bonus. It will give you stats just for having it equipped and charged, and that's really its biggest bonus to you as an overall. And then we've got the last one that can be one of your biggest overall stat bonuses that you'll gain at all, is your artifact. Now, at myth level, every upgrade on this item will give you more prime attributes. and this item comes available in either elemental damage or type damage. So you can pick just your element, you can pick all elements, which was and is pretty good on elemental fairy since they use a wide range of elements, or you can also have your hit type or an all hit type. Now with this one of the biggest bonuses from it is its identified stats. You can have a multitude of stats and you can have repeating stats. So if you really want a huge boost on just your CP, you can do something like roll all stats for attack speed and get a really huge CP boost. Or you can roll it for all slash or something like that for a very high clear boost. It will give you a very large increase in damage, but not so big a CP bonus. So this is one of your biggest pieces that you really want to work on getting right and getting good stats from. You can use this to fill in stats you're missing or just give you a big CP boost by going for something like attack speed or crit and just max it out on that one stat. Next up, we're going to talk about emblems and titles. These are two of the easiest ways to get CP. They don't require a whole lot besides doing content and buying them off the auction house. Now, we'll talk about emblems first. Emblems have two real ways to get them. Way number one, loot crates. There's loot crates that you can open up for just emblems. The easiest and safest way, however, is going to be the auction house. Other people get them and post them. So you don't have to worry about wasting your time with loot crates. You can just buy them off the auction house. Now, the way the emblems work is the more of them you get, each one adds a point value based on the rarity that it is to your emblem bonus. As you gain more, you go higher up in the emblem bonus. The bonus that it gives your CP is higher. Now, emblems have a few different functionalities. The higher you go in them, the more stats they're going to provide. And when you start getting into the legendary area, some of them actually give you effects. Like, for example, the flamingo one shoots out lasers around you and allows you to do damage. One of the most well-rounded and highest CP bonus ones that you can get is going to be your Pandora emblems. They're different rarities throughout. Each one is usually a pretty well-rounded high CP boosting emblem. But there's other ones that are better when you start getting into the higher tier ones for actual content clearing and usefulness. Now, next up is going to be the titles. Titles you can obtain through clearing content in the game. So when you're leveling up 1 through 70, now 75, you can gain different titles doing quests and doing specific things in dungeons, such as killing this boss in this manner or killing a certain number of ads that this mini boss spawns, things like that. Clearing different raid bosses solo and things to that extent. Now, then there's also ones for the arena, and there's a whole bunch of different titles that you can get that will give you different things as you get them. Now, some of the titles come in sets. When you complete a title set, you get a overall bonus to your character. So once you complete that title set, your CP goes up without having to equip that title. Now, both titles and emblems have a way to equip them. There's 2 boxes next to each one. The left box is for show, the right box is the equip. When you equip one, it will add the stats directly to your character. That way you can see a CP difference, or certain ones like some titles will give you a large percentage in a hit type elemental bonus, or there's one from raid 5 that will give you a large boss hit percentage. And so basically all you got to do is pick which title and emblem you want equipped for the actual stat bonuses, click the box, and bam. And then for your left box, you can pick whatever you want to have hanging over your head for a name and the emblem next to your name. And these are 2 pretty easy to get bonuses. I mean, one costs you a bit of gold, the other costs you a bit of time going through and doing specific things in dungeons. Just make sure to try to get all your level 1 through 70 ones as you're leveling up. It's sometimes going to be a little hard to have to take off all your gear to go to a certain part of a boss, getting things done in a certain manner. Alright, so next up is costumes. Costumes can make a great increase in your damage, and yes, appearance items actually make a difference in your stats in this game. All of your costume has a set bonus for how many of the same rarity you have combined. They don't have to be the same type. You can mix types for different looks, but as long as they're the same rarity, you'll get a set bonus from them. The costumes themselves provide stats. Your rare ones have 2 slots for weapon attachments, which can give you a lot of bonus stats to them. The higher the weapon, the more stats it provides, including from high up, giving you prime ability stats. So that can make it really nice when you're starting to add rare or legendary weapons to your costume, increasing your stats by a lot because you're gaining a lot more of your prime ability on them. And you've also got a weapon skin, and your side costumes you have 4 slots for. So you can get a lot of cosmetic items that add a lot of stats and get a huge percent bonus on your actual CP and your clear time because the stats are there. And when you first equip the items, you also get to choose which stat you apply because they'll give you an option of 2 or 3 different stats to choose from per appearance piece that you can then use to make that a little bit more suited towards you, be it going more defensive, going more offensive, things to that extent. And if later on down the road you decide you don't like what stat you chose, you can go to Ludwig and buy a stat resetter on your costume and change the stat on it. And now in order to get these, there's a couple different ways. You can buy loot crates that are available either in game or through the cash shop. You can buy loot crates from the auction house. You can test your luck turning in Ludwig tokens and popping his box to get you a chance at a rare costume piece. You can buy them from other players because a lot of people sell them all the time, and that will allow you to gain access to these cosmetic items. That way you then can equip them, use them, and get a huge boost in your actual power. It's really, really nice to put them on and gain that big bonus. When I got my costume at first, it took me from like 5.3 up to like 6.6 million CP. I've since reached over 10 million CP, but it's a huge bonus, and it's kind of nice to see that cosmetic items themselves actually do something in this game, and they're obtainable from more than just the cash shop, which makes it really nice. In order to buy an actual rare costume from the cash shop, you have to play their RNG system of loot boxes, which are the same loot boxes that are available in game. Now we're on to one of the more complex types of combat power increase that I've seen in this game so far. The crests themselves have to be crafted. You can obtain crest pieces from certain dungeons and change it in stones. When you get 50 of them, you can craft a crest. Now, once you have a crest crafted, you can then go ahead and equip that one. It'll show up on your crest menu. In there, you can upgrade your crest up to +10 using the enhancement tab that's on there. What it does is it uses 3 trials pieces of that same type to upgrade it. You get a percentage chance based on what enhancement you're already at. Now, to get the actual stats from it, you need to increase that crest's influence percentage. You get 10 chances at this. Now, there's 2 types. There's crest influence stones and crest influence stone plus. The plus has a 4 to 20% chance per usage. The regular one has a 2 to 10. You use all 10 of them, hope RNG likes you, and you get a high enough percentage based off of your influence on them. If you have to reset it, you can buy a crest influence reset and it'll wipe it out and you can try again. Now, this can get a little costly on there because the crests themselves aren't cheap if you go to buy them off the auction house. I just sold one this morning for 50 mil. It was one of the new ones that was released. And obtaining the crest pieces can be a slow and tedious task. Even if you're using stones, it costs a lot of stones to get them all. But the bonus that they provide is actually rather high and wide ranging. You have defensive bonuses, you have crit bonuses, you have boss hit percentages, damage percentages, raw attack power. The stats that they provide are all over the place and there's a lot of them to get. So this is a little bit more of an in-game bonus area because you can acquire a lot of them and it takes time to really build it all up. But it's a worthwhile investment that can give you a decent increase in power. Now, for me, this was a little hard to find the information. I actually ended up asking people around in game where to find it and how to use the system. And then messing around with it a little bit, I figured out the finer details of it all. Hopefully this will help you where I didn't have that much at the start. Alright, so next we're going to look at the things that you pull up in your skill window. You've got the Forces tab on there that has 7 orbs that you can increase on there using Ether Force and preferably your recalculation scrolls. Each orb has different stats that it applies as you level it up. You can gain the Ether Force either through completing the storyline, picking up drops from some of the dungeons that you'll do that actually drop Ether Force items, or the best and most efficient way is using your red orbs to buy the 100 proc crystals from prior. He also sells recalculation scrolls. Your best way to level up any of your orbs is to use the third tab on the level up area that uses Etherforce and recalc scrolls. This will give you the largest increase on there, and it will always be a positive increase. The other two tabs can give you a negative on there, so you'd actually be losing stats. Once you complete all of these, it's actually a rather large increase depending on what your CP is. It will be depending on this amount that you'll actually get for it, but I pulled about 1.3 million CP increase by leveling them all up the other day. Now your last tab on there is your Labyrinths tab. This includes your regular Labyrinth for doing your skills, which you'll want to do first. This increases the amount of damage that your skills do. Currently, the ones that are under 40 you can choose from to increase all the way up, and once you get all three of them increased, each one that you max out gives you 60% for your skills over level 40. Now on the other side of that screen on the right side is your Chaos tab. This is where you can increase your actual stats. If you're really just looking for only CP, you can do things like attack speed, critical damage ratio, attack, things to that extent. Your best ones to get actual raw damage, however, will be the ones that reduce the enemy's resistances. So things that reduce your resistance to your current element and to your damage type. So use 2 of those plus 1 regular bonus that's in there. This will give you the most actual raw damage output, but it won't increase your CP at all. So if you're looking for just CP, go with the damage. If you're looking for actual fighting power, use the ones that reduce enemy resistances. Your choice, but those also show up a little bit more later in game because you need to clear your parallel labyrinth. Now, one thing to note and a little trick on this is once you hit max level in a labyrinth, you only need to use stage 1. This will save you a lot of those amplification orbs so that you don't have to spend all that money and have the harder clear. You can just drop it down to level 1 and it'll count as a level 100 clear if you've cleared up to level 100 already. So that'll save you a little bit of time, make things easier, and it'll save you some resources. The last source of CP that I'm going to talk about is going to be your pets. Outside of the set bonuses that they have, your pets can add a large variety of different stats depending on the pet that you're using, along with a lot of utility. The perfect example of this would be the Lion King. When you activate his skill, he will roar and pull all the enemies in the area directly in front of him, giving you grouping potential to just take them all out right in front of you instead of having to try to use skills, and some classes don't have great grouping. So it makes it a lot easier to group everything up, pull it right in front of you, it stuns them, and you can do some damage. And then outside of their actual stats and their utility like that, you also get 3 more sockets to put gems in. Here it's pet gems. They roll with a variety of different stats. There's 4 different types. You can only use 1 of each type, so you have to pick what ones you're using. The traditional ones roll with smaller minor stats. You can get higher rolls based on the level of the gem itself, but the new ones, the topaz ones, can actually be identified just like your regular gear, and they can roll with a variety of stats, be re-identified and recalculated, which makes them really nice. Now, just like all pet gems, you can get your prime abilities on them with the higher standings. But since Topaz only comes in Legendary, they're always going to have your prime abilities on. So you can get your prime ability on it, and then you can get your identified stats and roll what you want on it, making them a very, very good and helpful bonus. Now, sadly, I haven't picked one up myself. They're a little pricey right now, and when I did try to roll for one, I did not get so lucky. But it is rather nice to see that they're there. And so I'm going to take a guess and say that just like any other piece of gear, it will add a large bonus to your stats, because basically you're just adding another identified piece of gear to your rolls. So this will help bring up your CP. I'll be getting one as soon as I can get my hands on one at a reasonable price, or if I get lucky, but who knows when that'll be. As a final note in regards to overstatting, because you will eventually, once you start getting enough bonuses, crit is going to be the best place to overstat because of the belt. The belt gives you a bonus for every 100 crit you go over the cap of 3,000. Example being the 3 fire per 100 that I currently get. This number also increases as you enhance the belt. Now, if the bonus outweighs the available stats on the gear, then go ahead and overstat your crit. So if it's something like a percentage increase on damage or boss hit, for example, go with that because it outweighs the bonus from the belt, making crit an acceptable overstat. So try to make sure that your belt has a good bonus when you start doing this. Okay, so to wrap this all up, remember, CP is not your clearing potential. It's an on-paper stat that is a compounding formula based on the other stats that apply at all times. Stacking things like attack speed that maxes out at 220% and crit that maxes at 3k are great on-paper stats, but they may not be the best stat that you want to stack for actual clearing potential to get through content. They're great to get you into content. Hitting your thresholds to get into content is a very important thing, but once you get there, start working on making your character stronger so you can clear that content more efficiently, and that way it doesn't feel like such an uphill struggle in the battles. It's more like a quick, clear, and efficient fighting. It's more fun. It feels better. So remember to stack things like your boss hit percentage, your elemental type, and your attack type to get your character stronger. That way you don't just look stronger on paper, you actually are stronger. Your character can do the content easier. Alrighty, well, that should wrap this up, gamers. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy whatever world you're jumping into next.